Thanks for leading us off in the chat there. Dad of Winnie White. Thanks, Stephen. If everybody else could follow suit, that would be great. And Mrs. Henner, are you good with, there we go, beautiful. Okay, so welcome to Kindergarten Orientation 2021. So the next slide will tell you some of the other important, well, actually the only other important person who's not with us tonight is our secretary. That's Mrs. Bernadette Moyer. But you'll be hearing tonight, we've got Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Ryan both on the call. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the other staff at Peterborough Street and show you some photos here. Thank you, Mrs. Henner. So we've got 5 sections of kindergarten for 21-22 and a K-2 program as well. So we are very fortunate. Our teachers are wonderfully devoted and nurturing ladies, and we're very fortunate to have teacher aides in all of our kindergarten classrooms as well. So they provide a lot of additional support and early intervention, which we believe so strongly in. And we've just got a whole slew of other support people, speech teachers and OT, PT, so our occupational therapist and our physical therapist. We've got a psychologist and social worker who are shared with Southside Elementary School. We've got lots of support from academic intervention support teachers in the areas of reading and math, and certainly our special area teachers for PE and art and music and library as well. And we're even, we're able to add a couple new specials for our students this year too. So the next slide shows you, you might recognize some of these if your kindergartner is not your first school-age child to come to school. So we've got Mrs. Moran and Mrs. Fiore, Mrs. Schmidt and Miss Emmerich, Mrs. Pierce and Mrs. White, Mrs. Cassava and Mrs. Stevens, Mrs. Paul and Mrs. Kinsella, and Mrs. Nugent and Mrs. Davis. So we've got a lot of new staff, and I don't have their photos to share with you yet, but there are a few more on the next slide. So on this next one, you'll get to see Mrs. Wallace and Mrs. Thomas are our reading teachers. Mrs. Gibo is one of our math teachers. Mrs. Tully is a speech teacher. And then Mrs. Pelkovic is art. Miss Mamone is library. Mrs. Burkhead is OT, our occupational therapist. And Mrs. Bonaventura is one of our PE teachers. And then we have Mrs. Berzin and Mrs. Schlegel with the fun Dr. Seuss garb on there. And they are our social worker and our school psychologist. So lots of important people here to help take care of and nurture your little ones. So the next slide is about kindergarten goals. So I will read these to you in case you're you're on your phone and you can't see these. Well, we want your children to have fun and to enjoy coming to school. We want them to feel that school is a safe place and to develop a sense of belonging and security in the classroom. We also want them to develop appropriate ways of responding to people, to learn to accept limits and begin to establish them independently, to develop an ability to express feelings, and to learn to question, evaluate, compare, and reason and problem solve in order to be college and career ready. We do start talking about that right out of the gate in kindergarten. We also want them to develop an interest and enjoyment of literature and art and music and science, and certainly to cultivate an active and healthy imagination. The New York State Common Core state standards and ELA and math modules help us meet those goals. Also, we'll talk a little bit more about those a couple slides in. So a typical day in kindergarten is our next slide. And that begins with a morning welcome and organizational time, usually a morning job, calendar and weather, attendance and lunch count. That's our social emotional check-in time too. There's journal writing. We focus on ELA skills and ELA listening and learning as well. We have stations and group time where the students rotate from group to group. Lunch and recess, of course, and we do try to get the kids out every day if the temperature, the feels like temperature, is above 20 degrees. So we love that they are dressed for it, dressed and ready for it in the winter. They have a special every day, and then social studies and science time, math time, and there's always a snack time. So a few years ago, we transitioned to a different approach with snack time, and that's the next slide that you'll see. We ask parents to help provide classroom snacks on a monthly basis throughout the year. So you'll receive a little note with a highlighted snack when it's your turn. So we may be asking you for a box of Cheerios or a bag of pretzels or a certain kind of cereal. Teachers will certainly let you know if there's a serious allergy or a food to be avoided. But the next slide shows you what those little slips look like that will be coming home. And if you can help us out with snack, that's just wonderful. Everybody takes a turn, and it's worked out really well then, rather than the way we used to have parents send in money monthly and teachers did all of the shopping. But this way's really worked well the past couple of years. So we appreciate your help with that. And we would never turn away snacks if you wanted to send in, extras or some other special treats or surprises. And that next slide, we can probably just skip through. It's just the slips, Mrs. Henner, with the little reminder slips there. So the next slide, I hope that you've seen this before. It's our 2021 supply list. So it should have come home with all of your students if we screened them. So the one thing that I will highlight on there is that we would love water bottles with the flip top caps, so that if we do have any spills or anything, that is very helpful. And if you do need to take another look at this list, it's available up from the district website as well as the Peterborough Street website too. So our next slide talks about PBIS, which is short for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. So that is the way that we are teaching and modeling and recognizing positive and appropriate behaviors in school. And it helps identify systems for logically responding to classroom and individual student problems. So our mission statement really says it all, that we, the staff and students at Peterborough Street and Southside, will work together to create a positive and caring school community through our words and our actions. To be ready to learn every day, we will encourage each other to be safe, respectful, and responsible. Voice levels are listed on the bottom. If you have older students, you might already know these, but 0 is silent, 1 is a whisper or a partner voice, 2 is our speaking voice, and 3 is the voice we get to use outside and at recess. So PBIS has really been a game changer for us at the elementary level, both in school and on the school bus as well. It may be something you want to start using in the car if you need everybody to be quiet or something. We just hold up that little 0 for a voice level 0, and it's amazing how quickly a room or a school bus or when we were able to have programs and special visitors, amazing how fast that we could quiet down the entire gym full of our entire population. So it really is quite handy. So the next slide is safety and building procedures. So if you've been to Peterborough Street, or even if you've just driven by, you've probably noticed that there's not a lot of parking. That is part of the capital project, and we will be tackling that and increasing the size of our parking lot, but that's not going to happen until next spring or summer. So parking is at a premium. So if you do need to come to school, the best places for you to park are in front on Peterborough Street, or right when you pull in the parking lot, which is the north side of the building. There are several parking spaces over there. It's important for you to know that all of our doors are locked at all times. And our single point of entry is the front doors, and handicap accessibility is at the rear entrance if needed. So you would normally just press the buzzer for entry. Mrs. Moyer, our secretary, is usually at the desk to let you in. Our relief secretary for her lunchtime is Mrs. Skinner. Everyone will be asked for photo ID if you are visiting school. It looks a little bit different again this year as far as not being able to allow non-essential personnel into the schools at this time. But when we are able to do that again, be sure that you have photo ID with you always. We would ask that you sign in at the office and wear a visitor's tag at all times. That's similar to the one that I'm holding up right here. That just lets adults and kiddos alike know that you're a safe person and you're supposed to be here, even though you're not a familiar face maybe. Green student information sheets. Those were mailed home with class teacher and placement information, and we really live by those. If you can keep those sheets up to date with working phone numbers and people who you give permission to pick up your child, that would be absolutely wonderful. We update our electronic student information system with the information on those green sheets. So they really are an important tool for us here at school. And one other little thing at dismissal time, we do ask that everybody exits either out the front doors or out the north door to avoid interrupting the flow of traffic in the building. Of course, we'll let you know when it's possible. Last year, it worked out actually quite well. Parents used to be able to wait in the building at the end of the day, but due to COVID restrictions, we were not able to do that. But we do have a new system for that. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So just a few COVID-19 related procedures that we are hoping put your minds at ease a little bit. Universal indoor masking for everyone in our building. So all of the adults and all of the kiddos. Everyone is encouraged to wear their masks properly, which means that they cover their nose and cover their mouths. That's in school and on the school bus as well. Please know that we will provide safe mask breaks throughout the day for our little ones. So this was we had our kindergarten orientation on Monday night, and I will tell you that one of the biggest concerns that people had last year was, how is this masking going to work with our little ones? And if that's high on your list of things that you're concerned about, I will tell you that kids were absolutely wonderful about it. For some of them, they don't know any different than wearing a mask at school. And they really did a great job with that. We remind them, to tuck their little noses in if they sneak out, but they're really, really good about it. We always have backup masks and everything here for them if they needed to be traded out during the day. We have disposable ones to share. So please, if that's on your list of worries, I hope that we are putting your minds at ease about that. We will be distancing as much as possible. So those distances will be between 3 and 6 feet. And frequent and proper hand washing are on the top of our list too. That means upon arrival and before and after eating, after using the restroom, of course. If we're switching gears special wise and those kind of things, we teach the students how to properly wash their hands, and we do it an awful lot. We also will have hand sanitizer available as well when it's not as convenient to use good old soap and water. One of the best pieces of advice that we can share with you is that it will help keep everyone healthy if you keep your child home if he or she is sick. And we ask that you please just keep in touch with our school nurse, Mrs. Ryan, and the main office, Mrs. Moyer, regarding anything that might be going on, at home and health-wise with your little one. Okay, next slide, please, Mrs. Henner. The school day. So students may enter the building at 8:40 in the morning. Everyone eats free again this year. So that means that breakfast will be delivered to classrooms And most of you received a little slip that came home, which will let us know if we're planning on your child for breakfast. It's really nice for us to be able to let the cafeteria know. If your child is never going to eat breakfast at school because they eat at home, that's great. If you let us know, then we won't include them in our numbers. Maybe your child will eat with us every day, or they'll just be an occasional eater, but we'd love for you to share that information with us. We'd also like to encourage everyone to please complete and return the meal application to secure. That's going to help us secure free meals for the future. So even if you don't think your family would qualify, it helps us justify numbers, which down the road will help us be able to offer free meals to everyone, and no one will have to pay for school lunches down the road. So breakfast or lunch. So please complete that application. It will come home one of the first days of school. If you can get that right back to us, we would appreciate it. Students should be in classrooms by 8:50 or they're considered tardy and require a late pass from the office. So we ask that, if you arrive late, just come to the front door. Normally, I'd want you to sign your child in, but with the restrictions in place right now, you just buzz at the door and let us know that you have, little Susie's here, and we'll buzz right down and grab her. And it really helps if we can encourage independence and try to say goodbye, at the door, or start that process at the car if you're dropping off. We promise you, even if it is a tearful goodbye or separation, we will absolutely be in touch with you if your child doesn't recover quickly. So please know that. But we've pried kids off of parents before. I'm sure there are still days like that to come, and we would definitely be in touch with you if need be. So please keep that in mind. I know it can rip your heart out, and it's not a great way to start your day, but we promise that we will take good care of them. Okay. So let's see. Our everyday walker permission forms. So if you know that you will be picking your child up at school daily and they will never take the school bus to the sitter or home, you don't have to sign your child out daily if you've completed this form. And if circumstances change at any time, just let us know. Those are available in the office. So we're happy to connect with you to let us know that, just to make things more smooth at the end of our day. Walkers are released at 2:55 p.m. and then the buses follow. And we pair children up with parents or whoever is picking them up out in front of the building. And it worked really well last year. We do ask, you always have to have an ID with you. We will get to know you quickly, but in the event that we have to have a substitute on that duty, it's great to have your ID with you. And if you can bring your laminated card, we will put the names of any of our walkers on a half sheet of brightly colored cardstock. We laminate, we'll give you a couple of those. So it's just like being at the airport. And that lets us very quickly inventory the parents that are out there and who's looking for kiddos. And then we send them out in an organized fashion to connect with families. And of course, if you forget your laminated card, we're still going to give you your child. So just make sure that you've got your ID with you, please. So on a regular day, maybe you need to pick your child up early to get to a doctor's appointment or something. Mrs. Henner, can we peek at that next slide? So it would be ideal if you can send a note into your child's teacher and then she will share that information with the office. So again, just buzz at the front door, let Mrs. Moyer know you're here, and then she'll call your child down to the office and we will, bring him or her out to you. If you have an unplanned early pickup, if you could call the office as early as possible, by noon is absolutely ideal. Just to be able to let everybody know, and then we can let the first run of buses know know that as well, who they're looking for or who's not going to be riding that day. And just a reminder, it's on the green sheet, but anyone who is picking up a child must be 18 years of age or older, and they should have a photo ID, please. We certainly understand if someone who is not on the green sheet has to pick them up or maybe is even going to meet the school bus at the end of the day, that's fine. Just give us a phone call and some identifiable information and a heads up. That would make things go much more smoothly for us. The next slide is about the importance of good attendance. So there's some statistics to share here, but basically we want to just be establishing good habits early and instill that school is important, even on half days too. So we don't want children missing out on, fundamental reading or math skills. So starting in kindergarten, it's really important that they are present. If they are well enough to be in school, we definitely want them here. Missing 10%, which is about 18 days, can make it harder for children to learn and to read and to comprehend. And it's pretty easy to fall behind. So kindergarten's a great place to start that good habit. We do have a K-12 procedure in place with attendance letters that just all of the principals and usually social workers are involved in sending out letters at 5, 10, and 15 days of absences and of tardies. So we'll just reach out. It's not threatening. Please don't take it that way. We want to help. So if there's something that we can do to, help you get your child here on time every day, then, we want to be part of that equation and make a positive difference. So know that we do keep track, and it is important even when they're little and in kindergarten. I'm going to skip most of the next slide on cafeteria requests, given the fact that everyone is free again this year. The only thing that I will tell you is that you can certainly send a healthy lunch from home with your child. But again, this year, everyone is free, and we'll be sure. We just got September menus all set for teachers in mailboxes. So those are available on the website, and one is sent home monthly also. So the dress code, I'm just going to address that next, and then I'll turn things over to Mrs. Ryan. So some reminders, our dress code, it's a district-wide dress code and some highlights that are important at Peterborough Street. We need to be sure that we're safe and appropriate and a student's dress doesn't disrupt the educational process. No tube tops, halter tops, or spaghetti straps. And hats and hoods and bandanas should also not be worn. We will, however, have some fun spirit days throughout the school year when kids will be able to wear their hats, so keep that in mind. And safe footwear is another really important thing, especially at Peterborough Street with our littlest people. So we're in the building with all the stairs and the littlest legs. So safe footwear is really important around here. We also have wood chips out on the playground. So keep in mind, safe sandals are the kind that have the strap behind the ankle too. So with all the stairs and the wood chips, sneakers are really the best for outdoor recess and running around and playing on those wood chips, if you can keep that in mind. Okay, Mrs. Ryan, the next couple slides are yours.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Ryan. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I'm
One more slide, Mrs.
here
Henry.
at Peterborough Street, and this is going to be my 5th year here at the school. And I have been a registered nurse for 17 years. I actually live here in town, and I have 2 kids of my own who go to school here in Canastota. So I want to just say a great big welcome to all the parents of brand new kindergartners joining us. And I'll just say that this is a great place for your kids to grow and learn. So welcome. Mrs. Henner, if you could switch to the next slide, please. I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights here regarding the health office. I'll start off any medications that your child may require while they're here during the school day will need to be ordered, or I'm sorry, delivered by an adult. Students are prohibited from uh, bringing medications in their backpack to or from school. I require a doctor's note, a doctor's order, and a parent permission slip to be completed for any medications that have to be given here at school, whether it's a prescription or an over the counter. And those medication forms are available on our school website. The next point is about immunizations. So New York State requires our students to be fully vaccinated um, when they enter kindergarten. There's 4 booster shots that every child will need before entering kindergarten. That includes booster shots for DTaP, polio, MMR, and varicella. Those immunization records can be submitted to me on paper. They can be emailed to me. You can scan them to me. You can fax things to me. You can have the doctor's office fax immunization records. By and large, I have most of them already from when students were registered. Parents submitted that information, but if you haven't done so yet, please do it as soon as possible. New York State gives us a grace period of 14 days from the first day of school to make sure that all those vaccinations are completed and that they're all documented and submitted to me. After the 14th day, I can't let your student uh, come into school until they do have those vaccines on board and documented on paper for me. So just keep that in mind. The next point includes physicals. Actually, I believe New York State is giving us till December this year to make sure that all the updated physicals are submitted. So that's kind of nice for us parents. Um, at this grade level at kindergarten, every student needs to have an updated physical submitted. That really is helpful for so many reasons, especially because it helps me to have a snapshot of their baseline health information. Any allergies should be listed on the physical, any chronic health conditions, and so on and so forth. That's really very important. So make sure you get those physicals submitted. And again, just like the immunizations, they can be sent in via paper copy, fax, or email. Next, I want to let you know what regular screenings I do here at school. Um, in kindergarten, we'll be checking vision for both near and far vision. We'll also check for color vision, and we also do a hearing screening. And then if there's any abnormal results or any areas of concern, I'll let you know right away. And typically I would refer them to see their primary care and let them do another vision screening or hearing screening in the office, physical ear exam, that kind of thing. Those screenings don't typically happen right away. We give the kids a couple months to get acclimated to the building and to kindergarten in general before we start any of that. Dental health is important at every age, especially at this young age. I want to encourage parents to make sure you're helping your kids brush their teeth twice a day. Start talking about flossing, start talking about what cavities are and how to maintain great dental health for their whole lives. The state doesn't require a dental health certificate, but we do recommend that they start seeing a dentist, and that when they do see their dentist, you have them fill out the dental health certificate and then submit that to me, and I can file it away here. I thought of something else, but I don't remember what it was. The next bullet includes emergency numbers. It's always super important for us to make sure that we have updated emergency numbers during the daytime, numbers that you can be reached at in case your son or daughter becomes ill at school or has an injury. Any number of reasons I might need to get a hold of you. I need to make sure I need you to make sure that we have the right phone numbers to catch you during the daytime. The next area includes extra clothes. So accidents happen, right? Spills and bathroom accidents and who knows what. Many reasons that a child might need to change their clothes while they're here at school. So what I recommend is that you get a baggie, a gallon size Ziploc baggie, and put an extra outfit in it, shirt, shorts, underwear, socks. Fold it up, stick it in their backpack, and let it live there in case of an emergency, in case of an accident where they spill their juice or their milk, or they have a bathroom accident, and then it's right there. I can help them get changed. We'll bag up the wet stuff and move on with the day, and they still have their own clothes on. Kids feel a lot better when they can um, have their own clothes on if they do have a need for it. If you don't choose to do that, I have extra clothes here. I'll send home a note if they do need to change while they're here, and ask you to just return whatever they borrowed as soon as possible. Our district head lice policy is on the district website, and essentially it is a no live lice policy. So if I find live lice on a student here during the day, I'll call the parent and let them know what's going on and ask them to have someone pick the student up, take them home for treatment, and then return them the next day. Have the parent bring the student back in the next day so that I can recheck them, verify that there's no more live lice, and then they are welcome back into the classroom. Next is food allergies, other allergies and health concerns. So when you've submitted your updated physical, typically that will include the information about any allergies or health concerns. But in addition to that, there's going to be a blue form that looks like this. It'll get sent home. It's probably already been sent home to you, I believe. If not, it'll come home in the first few days of school. And it's called a health inventory form. And it's a lot of yes or no boxes, and there's areas for you to write in additional information. There's a back to it that I need that is for permission for me to use topicals in case your son or daughter has a cut or scrape or a mosquito bite, so I can treat that here while they're here. And this gives more detailed information about food allergies that you can write in or any other health concerns that I should be aware of. So make sure you get those blue forms filled out and sent back to me. I think there's, there it is, sick policy. I couldn't see the bottom. So our illness policy is on our school website, but additionally, there are specific guidelines that we are following that are statewide guidelines supported by the CDC. And in regards to COVID-19, any symptoms that are COVID-19 like symptoms, including fevers, cough, loss of taste or smell, fatigue, body aches, sore throat, difficulty breathing, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, nasal congestion, and runny nose. That is what the CDC, that is the CDC list of COVID-19 symptoms. I know it sounds like that's every symptom in the book, and it kind of is. So if your son or daughter is experiencing any illness symptoms, please, please, please keep them home and call me. Things will be taken care of on a case-by-case basis, but by and large, we would recommend them to see their primary care physician, and if the primary care determines that a COVID test is required, then we would need that COVID test result before they come back to school. In general, the rule of thumb is that they're staying home for 24 hours after their last symptoms. So after the fever breaks or after the last time they have any diarrhea or vomiting, a full 24 hours before they return to school. If they are prescribed antibiotics by a doctor, they should have 24 hours on board before they return to school. And at that point, we assume they're feeling better and they're up for a day here. Don't think I missed anything, but like Ms. Carnahan said, please feel free to email me any questions that you have or call me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I just look forward to a really great year of kindergarten. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. So we'll talk a little bit about transportation next. Our Director of Transportation, Cindy Clark, is on the call with us this evening. So if we've got any specific transportation questions, we can talk about that. Or our last slide will give you, might be a good one to take a screenshot of or a picture of with some important emails and phone numbers also. So Mrs. Henner, on our next slide, we've got just a few highlights. If you can remind your child of his or her bus number and animal and the name of her teacher, that would be wonderful. We associate our 3-digit bus numbers with animals and then a more simple 2-digit number for them. So bus route 10, for example, is the whale, if you're not familiar with dismissal and how things work at Peterborough Street. I do want to put your mind at ease also. The transportation department is majorly helping us out with this, not being able to have an open house opportunity where we would normally do a meet and greet and you would receive your child's bus tag. They are going to take care of name tags for us on the very first day of school. So it will have your child's name on it and your child's teacher, just to make the organizational process here in the building more smooth. So please know we will take care of that and we'll make sure that everyone gets to where they need to be in a smooth and efficient manner. When you do have bus tags, they'll come home the very first day of school. They'll come home on your child's backpack. Please leave it right there. That helps our dismissal run so much more smoothly because it's a quick look. You know, are you in the bus route 10, the whale line, where you need to be? So if you can label your child's backpack on the inside with your child's name and the teacher's name, that's also very helpful. And we'd like you to be patient with us, of course, the first few days of school, as bus routes will certainly take longer, but drivers will quickly get in a groove and will speed the process up for sure. Changes for the day must be called in before noon. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier. And if you do happen to move or, you know, we've got a change in transportation form that is important that you fill that out. And that turnaround time can be, it can take us 3 days to process that. So please keep that in mind if you're going to need, you know, if you've got to get some paperwork in to make some changes. Emergency changes, things come up, we know that happens. If that happens after noon, they can only be authorized by the transportation office. And we do still have restrictions on the school buses, and one location is ideal. So we certainly know that there are exceptions to that rule, and we will be flexible with you as we can. But as a rule, it's very helpful if your child is being picked up at one location and is going back home or back to that same location after school as well. It's important that someone is visible in order for us to drop off your kindergarten child at his or her stop. So please make sure that someone is there. And if you can help us and reinforce voice levels on the school bus and expectations, you know, voice level 1, that whisper voice or partner voice, we want it to be an enjoyable trip for everybody. So that voice level is helpful. And remind them that the boss and the attendant, they're the bosses on the school bus. And everybody's going to have a much more pleasant ride if we all follow the rules. And I think that about covers transportation. Cindy, can you think of anything else?
No, I think that's good, Jen. Most importantly is just be patient the first few days of school.
Sure. All right, thank you. All right, the end is in sight, I promise. Just a couple more slides here while we have you as a captive audience. I'm also going to say that I appreciate those of you typing your names and your child's name in the chat. I don't see any questions. Oh, I do see a couple of questions in there already. So we'll make sure we address those. Thank you. So I told you at the beginning, we're very fortunate to have a school psychologist and a school social worker that we share with Southside Elementary School. So that's Mrs. Schlegel and Mrs. Berezin. Um, Changes and challenges, we have those lunch groups available for students in grades 1 through 3. And obviously with the pandemic, they did not happen in their usual form last year. But I do want to tell you about them because hopefully your child is with us for many years, and I want you to be aware of the opportunities. So the changes and challenges lunch groups, you may remember as banana splits when we were in school. But it's a bit more broad though, and these groups provide support to students who are experiencing major changes and challenges. Maybe mom and dad are separating, or there's a divorce, could be the death of a loved one or a pet, could be a foster care placement. But students would meet with one of these ladies during their lunchtime to discuss family changes, to share, and to gain an understanding of feelings, and to learn some coping strategies and provide ongoing support to each other as well. Students would be asked to respect each other's privacy and not to repeat things said by other group members. And general information is certainly shared with parents at home. And if something came up that you needed to know about, of course, Mrs. Berezin or Mrs. Schlegel would reach out to you. We can provide support if parents have social, emotional, or behavioral concerns, even if they're not presenting here at school. Please know that if you're struggling with something at home, reach out to us. Please don't hesitate. School counseling is in-school counseling is available if the issues are impacting the child here at school, and we can certainly help with outside resources if the issues are not affecting the child at school. So we are here to help. I'm happy to connect you with one of these two ladies. You can email me or just call and leave a message for one of us here at school. We are character education has always been an important part of life here at Peterborough Street, and the social, emotional health and well-being of our students. We would used to be able to enjoy monthly morning programs and even weekly programs when we were we could all join and congregate down in the gym and start our Friday mornings together. That's had to look different over the past year, but we do still have our traits of the month where we're like have respect is our theme for September. And you'll get a packet home of Clifford's 10 big ideas. We've got, some important messages that we share on the announcements, and we're making the best of the situation since we can't all gather like we used to. But please know that the social, emotional health and well-being of your kiddos is very important to us. So just a couple more slides here. Communication is key. Please remember there are absolutely no silly questions. It's the first time some of you have a kindergartner and we're here to help. So don't hesitate to contact your child's teacher. That should be step number one if you've got any questions or concerns. We always appreciate a heads up if a morning has been particularly rough or a change at home may affect your child. A quick little handle with care email or note or message if you're dropping off and it's been a rough morning and you don't want to talk about it in front of your child. If you just say handle with care, we're going to know and we'll pass that information on to your child's teacher too. We like to remind you of the 50% rule. So that means that we'll believe 50% of what your child tells us happens at home if you agree to believe 50% of what your child says happens at school. So reach out for the adult versions if you've got any questions or concerns about anything that's shared or that doesn't seem right. So many times we can clear up misconceptions if you just talk to the adult involved. So please keep that in mind. We get photos and blurbs up on the district Facebook page very often, so please be sure to check that out. Upon registration, you are automatically enrolled in School Messenger, which is our district alert system. You need to sign up for texts though, if that's easier, and you can do that from the website under the parent section. So many of you may have received a blast from me that I sent out yesterday, giving you the Zoom link and reminding you about this orientation. So
Get the
you'll
cat stuff.
teachers will send home weekly newsletters to keep you informed of what's happening in the classroom. And we'll also share our monthly newsletter with you via school messenger. So it's just important for you to know that our doors and minds and ears are always opened, and we want your child's year in kindergarten to be memorable and to be wonderful in every way. So just a couple other things you'll be receiving on the next slide. A parent handbook will come home one of the first few days of school. There's a lot of important information in there about birthday party treats and invitations, and a lot of what we have talked about this evening. So you'll have your own copy. If we're able to have volunteers in the school, we'll be holding a volunteer orientation. I'll keep you posted on that. Normally, we love to have parents or grandparents in to help with crafts and parties and centers and those kind of things. It's looked a little bit different lately, of course, in school. And then we have a very active and generous PTA, and they spoil our kindergarten friends the most. So I hope when that information comes home that you will consider joining the PTA and sending your form back in. We've got opportunities where we need volunteers for that too. So that information will come home. If you can keep your green student information sheets up to date, check those over and send them back to school right away. You also received a pink early dismissal sheet. So that lets us know what your child should do on a day that we may have to close because of inclement weather or a water main break or something. It's most simple for everyone if your child would do his or her normal routine on that day, but you do have a couple other options on that form. So please be sure to get the green one and the pink one back to us. The breakfast slip I mentioned to you earlier, that's important too. And an open house replacement plan is in the works. So please know that we will keep you posted on that. We're hoping to be able to either invite you into school or to provide some sort of a virtual open house a little bit later in the fall. So we'll be sure to share information when we know more. And I think, let's see, Mrs. Henner, if you can go to the very last slide that has the phone numbers and email addresses on it, that might be a good one that parents want to take a little screenshot of so they have those important numbers and email addresses. And I'm just going to peek at the chat. I appreciate all of you typing your name and your child's name in there so we know who's here tonight. That's fabulous. So Mrs. Clark, we have a question that says, should we have gotten bus information for our child already?
We currently are still working on all our transportation routes. Sure. We had a survey that recently went out because we have a lot of students that came back from remote that were removed from the buses last year. So unfortunately, it's a longer process than what I was anticipating. But feel free next week. If we have not reached out to you, please feel free to reach out to us at the phone number that's listed there, and we can get you that information. Or you can email me anytime with that information. That might even be quicker, and I can get back to you sooner with that.
Great, thank you so much. I have a parent asking, would we like those forms sent back on the first day of school or returned prior to school starting? Either is up to you. If it's convenient for you to drop them off here, we'd love to have them ahead of time. Otherwise, you can just send them in on the first day. My secretary is here Monday through Thursday from 7:30 to 3 o'clock, not here on Fridays. So if that's convenient for you and you want to drop them off ahead of time, it'd be one less thing to worry about, and we'd love to have them ahead of time. That's a great question. Thank you. And I don't think I see any other in the chat.
I believe that there were several parents that messaged just directly to me.
Okay.
That is an option. So I
Sure.
would like to go back to the beginning of the list of the questions that I received, and I'll ask them on their behalf.
Perfect.
And I believe try to pay attention, make sure I don't repeat myself per the questions that you have already answered. So give me 1 second. I think the very first question had to do with in physical education class, so in gym class. Do parents need to send a pair of sneakers that will stay at the school for the entirety of the school year? Or do parents just need to make sure that their children have shoes on for PE days?
Okay, that's a great question. So sneakers are absolutely ideal for PE. So if your child could wear them on PE days, that's perfect. If your child doesn't, if that's not going to work for your family, and you'd like to have a pair of sneakers that are left here, maybe that they're for outside, they're for recess time or a walk or that kind of thing, and the same for PE, that would be great. We'll find a place. Everybody's got a little cubby area, so that's no problem at all if it's easier for you to have a pair of sneakers that are left here. We're happy to do that. I just jot a little note to the teacher that, there's an extra pair of sneakers, can they please stay? But there's certainly no pressure to do that either.
Thank you, Ms. Carnahan.
Henner, I do see a question about can we drop off the bulky supplies before school starts? And if so, when is a good time? So, and that time frame that's good for that is the same for dropping off, any of that paperwork. Absolutely, you may. So feel free to do that. And Monday through Thursday, between the hours of 7:30 and 3, are ideal times to drop those things off. If you could make sure that they're bagged and they're labeled so that we get them to the right child in the right classroom, that would be wonderful. And I also see a good question about, is there a set schedule for PE, art, and the rest of the specials? Yes, and you will be getting a schedule. Either teachers will be sharing them. Let's see, they will be, I would imagine, we've got a couple little tweaks with that right now, but there is absolutely a set schedule. It's a day 1 through 6 schedule for specials. And that'll be very consistent. We are working on a couple of finishing touches with that, but teachers will send that home. And then another great question about a schedule for the cafeteria, to know the lunch menu and what days they might want to buy lunch or bring their own lunch. Those are in the piles for the teachers right now. So there's a whole stack of goodies that are going to come home on the first day of school. And one of those is the September menu. And that will let you know what is being offered for lunch every day. We're working on a menu also for breakfast, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a nice, consistent menu. And when that is firmed up, we will definitely share that information as well. I do believe that the lunch menu is always available on the website under food service also, if that's helpful, or you can't find the paper copy at home someday. Okay, Mrs. Henner, that's all I see on my end.
I have a lot more.
Okay. Oh boy. Okay.
So here's the next one. I did comment on one parent who had asked where they should drop off their child in the morning and pick up their child in the afternoon. And I did respond to her with the main set of front doors. Was I correct? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And parking is always a premium, and definitely at the drop-off time in the morning. So, between 8:30, 8:40, and then up to 8:50, it's busy here for those 20 minutes. So we do ask parents to park out front or on the side of the building, and then they can walk their child. It's a kind of deliver them to the building and who's on bus duty outside. And then parents are certainly free to go. They may have to circle the block a time or two, you know, if things are really busy out there, but we certainly take that into consideration. And we'll get into a groove as the year goes on. But yeah, good question and great answer.
Okay,
Jen, can I comment on that too?
Sure.
So just to top off what Ms. Carnahan was saying, try to be mindful when the buses are in the loop area, either dropping off or picking up. But try to be out there definitely the first week of school. We try to load 5 buses and unload 5 buses, so we make a box. Once that box is done and that first set of buses go, I always let any cars that are in there, the next set of buses go through, because it's very imperative that we don't get cars in between our buses for the safety of the children. So if we can try to help with that situation, if you happen to be in the back, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Great point, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question concerns the immunization records. One parent had noted that their child just recently got the booster shots that were required this week. Could the copy of their shot record be put in the student's book bag for the first day of school?
Yes, it definitely can. Thank you. Anything you send in on the first day of school, put it in an envelope, but send to nurse or send to Mrs. Ryan, and the teachers will make sure it gets down to me. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. That'd be fabulous.
Okay, we have another question, Mrs. Ryan. How recent does the physical have to be?
It has to be less than a year old. So school, this year school starts in September of 2021. So any physical that was done after, including and after September of 2020 will be acceptable for this entire school year.
Thank you. And can you also please confirm what the temperature needs to be for a fever in order to not send your child to school?
She went to soccer practice. No, Nani.
So according to the guidelines, it is 100 degrees is considered a fever, and please stay home and don't come to school. But if the other thing is, if you're 99.9 and you've got a runny nose and a sore throat, I would say that it's probably a good idea to stay home. And if a student develops a 99.9 here, plus they have their ear hurts or their throat is sore or they're coughing up a storm, it's going to be a signs of illness, and we're going to send you home and require all the follow-up.
Thank you. The next question has to do with physical distancing, and the question is, are children going to be able to play together or only at a distance?
Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, children are going to be able to play together. We are working on we've got some things in place with that. The 3 feet of distance, we're going to be, enforcing that. But when your kiddos have their masks on, when everybody's wearing their masks properly, they are going to be able to interact with one another. We're going to be careful about what we're sharing and hand washing and all of those kind of things. And they can certainly interact and play with each other outside on the playground as well. Mrs. Ryan, anything that you'd like to add in that regard?
I think you nailed it, Ms. Carnahan.
Okay. All right. Thank
Ms. Hunter,
you.
can I jump in?
Of course.
So I'm trying to stay on the same lines of the questions that you guys are asking, because some of it does relate to the busing. So as far as the busing is concerned, Currently, there is no social distancing. Last year, we had 1 to a seat, which made it very difficult for a lot of kids. But this year, the guidelines came out because the seats are so, we couldn't do a 6-foot because I'd only be able to put 5 people on a bus. So children need to wear their masks on the bus. Drivers and aides will also be having masks on. And I can put more than 1 to a seat. So we'll definitely put family members together, daycare students together. And if we can separate more than that, we will. If I can't, we will be putting the students with other students.
Great. Here's a question that is asking if parents and students will be able to meet the teachers before the first day of school.
So I had mentioned that things are looking different. Normally, we would have this night for parents only because it's so much information, adult information sharing, and we would have typically we would have an in-person open house event so that kiddos could meet their teachers. That you could bring those bulky supplies to school. Given the circumstances and where we are right now, that wasn't something that the district was comfortable opening up, and we were having some challenges with how we could space that out enough, in order to do that in a safe manner. So teachers should be reaching out. If you've not received a letter from classroom teachers, they send a little, a welcome letter. Usually they tell kiddos a little bit about themselves and, send a picture and that kind of thing. So there is not anything in place for an in-person open house or a meet and greet this year. Certainly, if a child has some anxiety about that, we are happy to make accommodations for that. So I would ask that that person, they can either email me or they can email the classroom teacher directly, and we'll make arrangements. Maybe it could be a Google Meet, like a Google Meet situation. Or something like that, but we will be very accommodating. We want everybody to be comfortable, and that's how we roll around here. So please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Could you give a ballpark estimate as to how many kids generally eat breakfast on a daily basis? Is it a majority of the kindergarten class? Is it half of the kindergarten class? A parent is just wondering, doesn't want, because they do have their child eat at home, but doesn't want their son or daughter to be the only kiddo in the class not eating breakfast for social interaction purposes.
Sure. I wish I had Mrs. Moyer on this call with us because she would know right off the top of her head, how that worked last year. In my observations and helping out in classrooms first thing in the morning, I would say it was probably right around 50% in classrooms, to be honest. And sometimes that one thing that I'm excited about us being able to bring some consistency to is what's being offered on which day. At this time, we're not going to be able to offer hot breakfasts. It will be a cold breakfast option. So I'm hoping for some consistency with that. So like Monday would be a yogurt breakfast. Tuesday might be a Pop-Tart meal. Wednesday could be cereal, and then maybe we bring Pop-Tarts in again on Thursday, and the bagels with cream cheese are every Friday. So as soon as that is ironed out, we will make sure that we share that, because that may make a difference for kiddos too, maybe they're not Pop-Tart fans, but they're all over bagel day. So Fridays would be a great day for them to eat breakfast. I think the most important thing, if you can fill out that form, be honest on your little half sheet, your breakfast slip. And if anything changes at any time, just let teachers know about that, because we'll change those counts if we need to. That's a good question.
Okay, another question pertaining to the COVID virus, and if there is a positive case of COVID or more than one positive case of COVID, what will the school do? Like, what will the plans look like for carrying that process out?
Carnahan, do you want me to field that answer for you?
I would love for you to. That'd be great, Mrs. Ryan. Thank you.
So we really work hand in hand with our Madison County Department of Health. When we have a positive case that's identified, the Department of Health is notified. We will assist them in collecting all the names of any students or staff or faculty that may have been exposed to the person who is positive. We share that information with them, and sometimes and then they determine who is required to quarantine. We can sometimes help expedite the call. So you may receive a call from us letting you know of the exposure before you hear from the Department of Health, but you will always, in addition to hearing from us, hear from the Department of Health with official quarantine orders. And then we go forth from there.
Yeah, definitely a team effort. We stay in good, close communication about that, and that's usually a team effort from Mrs. Moyer and Mrs. Ryan and myself, and we try to be as timely and accurate as possible. We get things blessed by the Department of Health, and then we're off and running. So.
And we do have specific guidelines that we are following as far as who has to quarantine in relation to how close or far away they were, for how long. So we have all sorts of parameters that we go by. It's very consistent, and it's all based on the CDC recommendations and the science that's out there.
Okay, thank you. Unless I may have missed one, I did respond to a few parents' questions because I knew the answer and they were pretty specific to the parents. So at this point, we're done with the questions coming in on the chat. So Ms. Carnahan, you can go ahead and close.
Okay, great. Yeah, the one reminder, I did respond to one privately also, where a parent asked about breakfast and lunch being free. That is the case again this year, and I'm just really encouraging everybody to please complete and submit those applications for the free and reduced. Even if you don't think you'll qualify, it's super important that we have 100% participation at that, because that's going to help us be able to secure free lunches and breakfasts, free meals going forward for years to come. So that's important data and information for us to have. So if you can spread the word on that and help us out, that would be wonderful. And we just really thank you. I think we've had a great turnout into the 40s tonight with parent participation. So thank you very much for giving us so much of your time this evening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your night and summer. And we look forward to having your kiddos here September 7th. It's going to be great. There honestly is no better place to be than Peterborough Street. All right. Thanks, everybody.